Welcome to Prime and Gold, everybody. I'm Chandler with Sports. Our regular co-host, Tyler Corbo's out sick this week. Sadly, he's not going to be able to join us for this episode. We'll have him back for next week for the Nebraska game. This week, it was Colorado's season opener in the Prime era against TCU down in Fort Worth, Texas at Amon G. Carter Stadium. And the TCU Horned Frogs are the defending national runner-ups in NCAA's college football. And CU wanted to come in and wreak havoc, I guess you could say. Now, before we get started, we want to talk about what we're trying to do here. Yes, this is titled Prime and Gold. I mean, it's the prime era in Boulder. And at the end of the day, we still want to cover CU football. We want to talk about the Buffaloes, but we still want to do it from the Sport Report's traditional perspective of a neutral perspective. There's no bias, there's no opinions, there's no rankings, nothing. We'll be objective. If they suck, we're going to tell you. But if they do great, yeah, we're going to tell you they did great. We're not going to kiss up. We're not going to talk down. We're going to have some fun with this. We got some things lined up for this over the next couple weeks and months. I mean, this CU football team, we didn't know what to expect. Now, we need some music for this, actually. There we go. We'll start in the first quarter. Yes, it was scoreless, like every other football game. And CU, if they could play 7-on-7 football, former coach Gary Barnett actually said that they could win national championship in 7-on-7, both on offense and on defense. Their special teams was pretty good too. Now, there's this guy named Travis Hunter. He's going to be a two-way player for the Buffaloes, and he didn't miss too many plays in this game. While he was at Jackson State with Deion Sanders, he was able to play defense, play a little bit of offense, and Coach Prime has always talked about how he could use Travis Hunter as a two-way player. And Travis Hunter, he can talk, but let me tell you, he's talented and he's confident, and he can back it up on the field. So, let's fast forward a little bit. You know, it's still scoreless. It's still the first quarter. CU gets the ball back after TCU goes out 3-and-out early. And the TCU defenders are playing soft coverage on this CU offense, which is probably not a best idea, considering we were just mentioning that, you know, they could win a 7-on-7 national championship. I mean, TCU's defenders are playing 15, 20 yards off these receivers, expecting Coach Prime to take deep shots. And they did. But we'll get to that. So these TCU defenders are playing soft coverage, 15, 20 yards off the ball. And these CU route runners are just going 5, 10 yards, getting quick pickups. And then you get hit for those bursts of yardage, 15, 20 yards down the line. So CU goes down, they score, get a touchdown. It took 13 plays, 73 yards, and 5 minutes and 6 seconds. Shedeur Sanders hits Dylan Edwards for a 4-yard touchdown. And keep in mind, this Dylan Edwards guy, you know, he's a freshman from Derby, Kansas. He's 5'9", 170. He's a good fit for a running back. And TCU had one of those in Deuce Vaughn last year, but he was 5'5". So Dylan Edwards has some speed. Just keep this in mind as we keep going here in this little bit of a recap. So it's 7-0 CU early in the first quarter. There's not really a lot happening, you know. TCU throws an interception. CU has a field goal that's blocked after a 12-play drive. TCU was actually driving on their own drive. They had an 8-play drive, and they got picked off. And, you know, that guy who got picked off? Chandler Morris. Yeah, not me. I wish. But, no, that's TCU quarterback. He was the starter last season. Suffered a knee injury in Boulder against CU a year to the day, actually. Got carted off in the third quarter, and Max Duggan came in and replaced him. And TCU went on to become, you know, second place in college football last season. So that covers the first quarter. It's 7-0. CU at the end of the first quarter. They did not trail. They didn't trail in the first quarter. And mind you, CU only scored 16 points in the first quarter all of last season. So the fact that they were winning is great, fantastic for these Buffaloes that went 1-11 last year. But this is a different team. We're going to give them some grace. 7-0 CU. TCU's driving inside the CU 20 as they start the second quarter. TCU scores on a 7-yard run to the outside. The Buffaloes had no help, and it was just a perfectly designed play for TCU. So they tie the score up at 7 after a 7-yard Trey Sanders run. No relation to Deion or the rest of the Sanders family. But he made his mark on this game for TCU. So CU drives down the field. They take 4 minutes and 40 seconds, which Sean Lewis wants to run a high-octane offense. It's like putting 91 gas in an 85 engine. It's just really, really fast. So CU continues to drive down the field. They score on a touchdown. Savion Wilkerson, a 2-yard run after Travis Hunter had an acrobatic catch in the end zone but he couldn't complete the process of the catch as he went to the ground. And due to the hand fighting that was going on in the end zone between him and the cornerback, the ball was placed at the 2-yard line due to a defensive pass interference. Wilkerson ran it in to make it 14-7 for CU. TCU gets to midfield, but they're forced to punt. Then CU's forced to punt on a 3-and-out. Then TCU missed a field goal. Yeah, they had a 43-yard field goal and it got pushed to the right. Brutal. CU also had their first penalty of the season around this time. It took 6 minutes to go into the second quarter. We're talking 22 minutes of game time, almost over 22 minutes of game time, before they had their first penalty of the year. That's impressive, and Coach Prime was talking at the coaches show earlier in the week. He doesn't want to see foolishness from his players. So he didn't, and they delivered. However, when they got that first penalty, it kind of became a snowballing effect, and they had 2 or 3 penalties in a row. That happened a couple times throughout the game. Anyways, CU starts their next drive, and Dylan Edwards, who scored the opening TD, fumbles. And it was close. The ball came out right before he hit the ground. The hand, without the ball went down, but you need an elbow or a knee to count as, say, 2 hands. Or you basically need another body part to hit the ground. The hand is there to stabilize you as you cushion your fall. So, 14-7, CU's on the run. They're in the lead. I mean, essentially Ralphie could be on the run. The CU team is really good. They're way better than last season, and Coach Prime's got something building. Maybe. 14-7. Trey Sanders scores on a 4-yard run for TCU. CU gets the ball back, and they go down in a minute 53 seconds, 9 plays, 44 yards, and kick a field goal by Jace Feely. 49-yarder is good. It is 17-14, Colorado at the half. Yes, Jace Feely is the son of former NFL kicker Jay Feely. So, end of the second quarter, 17-14, everybody in Boulder is just ecstatic. Start of the third quarter, Coach Prime took the analytics play, and they deferred. And then they had an analytics foul paw, and they had to take a timeout on a delay of game. So instead of losing 5 yards, they're kind of taking a timeout that they might need later. It's a close game, 17-14. Keep that in mind as we start the third quarter. Then there's an illegal touching, and CU was, so the receiver went out of bounds and came back inbounds and became a penalty. And when it rains, it pours. Like I said, when they have one penalty, it, kind of develops into another or whatever. They'll fix it over time. Give it time. And on the next play, Coach Prime and company decide, well, you know what? We're just going to throw a little screen pass to Dylan Edwards, who then breaks a tackle, finds a gap on the right side, and high steps his way to a Buffalo touchdown, 24-14. TCU comes right back down the field, and they score in 3 plays. Now the kick went out of bounds, so it gave TCU the ball at their own 35. They went 65 yards in 55 seconds. Amani Bailey had a 34-yard run on that drive. Morris hit Richardson for 10 more yards, and then Wiley for the 21-yard touchdown to make it a 3-point game again. So a minute and 15 seconds into the third quarter, it's 24-21 Colorado. CU has to punt after a 9-play drive that went about 30 yards and got to about just a pass midfield. TCU had an interception. There's a lot of CUs in this. It's a little bit complicated. CU has to get the ball back. They're punting the ball. We're middle of the third quarter. TCU takes their first lead of the game late in the third quarter. It's 28-24. CU's drive on their next possession leads to a touchdown, and it's 31-28 as we end the third quarter. Now, Amani Bailey has a 74-yard run on the drive that gave TCU the lead. Forgot to mention that. And Travis Hunter also had a diving interception that Voice of the Buffalo's Mark Johnson said was probably one of the best plays he's ever seen in his career. And the man's been calling plays for 30-plus years. And by the way, sidebar, Voice of the Buff's Mark Johnson's got like that baritone, deep, beautiful voice. It's like listening to Vin Scully when you go to sleep, and that's a good thing. It's just majestic, like an angel speaking in your ear. All right. Continuing, 31-28, third quarter, Dylan Edwards has his third touchdown of the game, a 7-yard run. It's his third score in his first college football game. Man from Derby, Kansas. I wonder if he'll be on the coach's show this week. It'd be an interesting conversation. Seems like a good kid. CU goes for more home run balls, and TCU gave up 89 plays of 20-plus yards last season. That was 130th in the country, second worst. However, on offense, they had 91 plays of 20-plus yards, which was tied for 4th best in the nation. This season, different story. CU's secondary was shutting them down deep. Shiloh Sanders missed a tackle, and Dylan Wright had another crossing route on that 24-yard touchdown. A lot of crossing routes for TCU. Wonder if Nebraska will take advantage of that next week. We'll get to that a little bit later. I know, I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. Just had to go back through some notes here. But yes, Shiloh Sanders missed a tackle. It happens. It's okay. Now, TCU couldn't defend that 20-plus yard shot down the field. 44-yard shot to Xavier Weaver helped CU take that 31-28 lead at the end of the third quarter. Into the fourth quarter, it got a little bit hectic, to say the least. TCU goes down in 14 plays, 79 yards in 4.5 minutes. They score a touchdown. It's 35-31. CU goes down in 6 plays, 75 yards in 3 minutes and 13 seconds to take the lead back, 38-35. TCU scores a touchdown on their next drive. It only took 2 plays because they had a kickoff return for 86 yards, and the last defender got to him. TCU leads 42-38. There's about 5 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. TCU now has to go back on defense and defend against a Colorado offense that's one of the best in the nation. I mean, it is week 1, granted. Travis Hunter, still playing on both sides of the ball, nearly had his 3rd pick of the day. Think about that. Travis Hunter nearly had his 3rd pick of the day. And he's the only college football player in the last 20 years to have not only 1 interception, but a reception on the offensive side of the ball. I'm being told Travis Hunter only had 1 interception, I'm sorry. He would have had his 2nd interception late in the fourth quarter. Oh, that could have been interesting. And let me tell you, that was a catch that would have gone down in infamy. Now we continue 45-42 after CU scores 6 plays, 82 yards, 2 minutes and 28 seconds, capped off by this guy named Dylan Edwards, who scores his 4th touchdown of the day, man. 46-yard touchdown gives Colorado the lead 45-42. There was an analytics conversation on the Fox broadcast and even in the Sport Report team meeting this morning. Should CU go for 2 in that situation? From an analytical perspective, no, because you want to have a 3-point lead, and if you miss the extra point, the PAT, you miss 2-point conversion, it's only a 2-point game, it's a close game, no, you don't go for 2 there. TCU drives 12 plays, 43 yards. They're just past midfield, they're winding the clock down, there's about a minute 10 left, it's 4th down. It is 4th and 9 from the Colorado 43. What does TCU do? A little bit of a short route to Jared Wiley, only gets 7 yards, and Colorado is going to win their first game of the season in the prime era too. 45-42 over 17th ranked and defending national runner-ups, the TCU Horned Frogs. Ooh, man, that was a lot. All right, what are some surprises from the game? The offensive line held up a lot better than most people expected. Yes, they could win a 7-on-7 national championship, but football's played with 11 players. So, incredible job by the O-line. D-line's going to improve. Speaking of something that needs to improve for next week, the special teams needs to improve for CU. They got beat on the left side. Jace Feely had a field goal blocked. There's just things that need to improve from a blocking standpoint on special teams and just from a return standpoint. They had some good returns sprinkled here and there, and that's just the case for everybody. But special teams needs to improve in quite a few areas. That's the biggest question mark for CU right now. This week, it's the battle with those Cornhuskers from that state to the northeast. Nebraska's defense is one of the best in the country. Let's be honest here. Their offense isn't that great. If CU's offense can somehow get past Nebraska's secondary, CU might run Nebraska out of the building by halftime. And the red zone defense by CU is phenomenal. Travis Hunter, Kamani McLean. There are some really good players on this team. There's just no other way to say it. So, Nebraska's offense needs to improve in the red zone. They threw an interception. I think they threw 2 interceptions in the red zone last week against Minnesota. And now Nebraska's offense can do a lot of crossing routes over the middle and get some short yards, kind of dump it off. That's a Matt Rule offense. Nebraska did that really well against Minnesota. CU needs to limit that. They let that happen a lot against TCU. And Nebraska can run. So if CU's defensive line can hold up, Nebraska is going to be in deep trouble. Now, this is a game where Matt Rule almost came to CU, and they ended up getting Coach Prime, which that seems like that's the better option here. And it sends a message. You better not be coming next week. it might be in Nebraska's best interest not to show up next week to Folsom. But Matt Rule's coming into town. He's going to see what he's missing out on. Look for passes over 20-plus yards, and watch out, because if CU starts airing that ball out and maybe get a little balance on the ground game, Nebraska is going to be in deep, deep trouble. What are some records that were set in this game? Colorado had their first 400-yard passer since Sefo Liufau did it in Berkeley in 2014. He had 455 yards that day. Shedeur Sanders had 510 yards. I mean, I kid you not, there were 2 pages of broken records that the CU offense set. I'm not kidding. Like, 2 pages worth of broken records from this game alone. That's impressive for a team that was 1-11 last season. First 2 touchdown receiver. They had a couple. First 2 touchdown receiver. Sorry, they only had 1. That was Dylan Edwards. Since KD Nixon versus USC in Boulder in 2019. They had 2 receivers over 100 yards. They actually had 4 receivers over 100 yards. Last time that happened, where there were 2+ receivers over 100 yards in the game for CU, 2018 against CSU. Most passing yards in a first start since Coy Detmer had 418 in 1992. Cordell Stewart also had 409 in 1992 in his first start. Again, Shedeur Sanders had 510. Cordell Stewart, that was in a season opener. So Shedeur also broke the record for most passing yards in a season opener. I'm telling you, a lot of records here. First time the team is over 500 yards passing since they had 533 versus Northeast Louisiana in 1995. TCU's Trey Sanders is the first 3 TD rusher versus CU since Quindon Jackson did it for Utah in 2020. Finally, Dylan Edwards is the first player to have 4 touchdowns in a game for CU. Laviska Shenault did it against Arizona State in Boulder in 2018 when he had 2 on each for 2 rushing and 2 receiving touchdowns. In a season opener, Shedeur Sanders, again, breaking records here. He had 38 completions, which breaks the old record of 33 in a season opener. Again, 510 passing yards, breaks numerous records there. Most receptions by a player, the record is 11. That was set by Jimmy Horn and Travis Hunter. And then finally, most receiving touchdowns by a player, the old record was 2. It happened 13 times. Dylan Edwards had 3 receiving touchdowns in a season opener. CU is the first Power 5 school to win as a 20-plus point underdog since 1997 in their season opener. I'm telling you guys, there are too many records broken. This game is like an analytics guy's dream. So TCU falls, and Colorado's conference next season is the Big 12. And so far this season in the Big 12, Baylor's lost to Texas State. Texas Tech almost got ran over by fans in Laramie. They lost to Wyoming. And CU and TCU fell to CU. And CU might have an easier road next season, but that's next season. For this season, it's the final season of the Pac-12. CU's going back home to the Big 12. I guess they want to run out on the West Coast as winners. They're going to have to get through a really tough Pac-12 schedule. This week, it is a non-conference foe, an old rivalry renewed. The Nebraska Cornhuskers come to town, 12 p.m. Eastern kick, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, also on Fox. It's a big noon kickoff. If you're in the Denver area, Mark Johnson, Coach Gary Barnett, and Andy Lindahl will be on the call for that one. That'll be on 850 KOA starting at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. Finally, one last thing we want to mention. Voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson, gave a new nickname out on the broadcast. We have to give credit to him. Jimmy Horn Jr. Well, you got a new nickname. It's Jimmy Honk the Horn Jr. We like to give nicknames out on the Sport Report podcasts, and we're just going to keep that tradition going. After the game, Coach Prime had a message for his team.
Usually God gave me a word long before this, but he's been holding it. Because it's not about them. This is about us. This has nothing to do with the team that's opposing us. This is about us. This ain't got nothing to do with the naysayers, the unbelievers, the haters, the doubters. This is about us. When we started this journey, we told you it was going to be trying, it was going to be tough, but you endured because it's about us. That man next to you is a miracle. That man next to you is a believer. That man next to you is a go-getter. That man next to you is a dog. That man next to you is somebody who wants this thing. That man next to you is somebody who believes. That man next to you is somebody that got to have it today. We ain't got tomorrow. We got now. We ain't coming no more.
Our thanks to Well Off Media and Deion Sanders Jr. for giving us a little bit of insight into the background of what Coach Prime was saying to his team. after this game. Coach Prime's got a message for all the haters.
What's up, boss? You believe that? Hold on. Oh, no. Do you believe that? Huh? Oh, no. I read through that bull junk you wrote down. I read through that. I sifted through all that. Yeah. Oh, no. Come on. Do you believe? You don't believe. You just answered it. You don't believe. Next question.
You know, when he says, "Do you believe?" it reminds me of another famous "Do you believe?" call. Al Michaels, what do you got?
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
All right, folks, that covers it. That's Prime and Gold for week 1. We'll be back for Nebraska week 2. Tyler Corbo is going to be back with me next week to talk a little bit more about CU football. Whew, buckle up. It's going to be one wild ride, and let me tell you, this is unlike anything you have ever seen in your life.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow! In your life have you seen anything like that?
For now, on camera.
So let it be written, so let it be done. Thanks for tuning into the Sport Report today. We'll be back on our next episode with the latest in sports. You can also find our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, you name it. We're on almost every podcast platform.
This podcast is copyrighted by the Sport Report for viewers to understand sports from a neutral perspective and news reporting basis. Any other use of this podcast, the Sport Report logos, or anything associated with the company without the express written consent of Chandler with Sports is strictly prohibited.